Welcome to the Escape Podcast, Monster Month.
Welcome to the Escape Podcast, your source for movie reviews and nonsense. Are you ready to party? Ow! It's my favorite time of year. It's time for Monster Month.
You do get a twinkle in your eye about Monster Month.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I was thinking today earlier.
Tell me about it.
I don't know if we talked about this before, maybe a previous Monster Month, but Halloween specials.
Okay.
Do you remember seeing Halloween specials when you were a kid? Like, it seems like every time I'd get home from trick-or-treating, there'd always be one or two on. Typically, it'd be like Bugs Bunny. They'd always show the one with the witch, and then they'd show the one with the big red monster.
Yeah.
Like in the castle that was chasing them, or they would show, like, Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin.
You know, I only just saw that within the last few years.
The Charlie Brown one?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of it. I've known of it, but...
Are you a Peanuts fan?
I liked them well enough. I wasn't, like, a fanatic.
Is there anything that stands out to you? Oh, another one that I used to see all the time was the Zeke the Plumber episode. I'm sure I've brought that up before.
Zeke the Plumber?
Episode of Salute Your Shorts.
Oh, wow. You see, now when it comes to Nickelodeon stuff, I didn't have a lot of experience with it unless I was at a certain friend's house, because we didn't have cable for, like, almost all my life. So, like, a lot of the Nickelodeon shows, if I was at a friend's house, I could watch it, but at home. So, I don't remember that specific episode. Like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I remember going to people's houses and seeing some of them. But as far as Halloween specials, the only thing that really sticks out to me was, like, the Home Improvement episodes.
Yeah, those are the two, like, sitcom series that seemed to have the most fun with it back in the day was Home Improvement and Roseanne.
Okay, I didn't really watch Roseanne too much until I remember I think it was when it first came to Nick at Night. Mm-hmm. I remember they showed a marathon, and I was at someone's house and watched a lot of it then. But
yeah. I never really watched a lot of it when it was on. It was more like when it was on Nick at Night that I started really catching it and realizing that the show, for the most part, was actually pretty good.
And then it got great when you find out like it was all a novel. And
spoilers.
No, I remember the Home Improvement episode where the one that sticks out more to me was the one where Tim had an obsessed fan, Rose, and she was like sending him roses. And do you remember that? And
I don't remember this one at all.
Oh, yeah, she was like an obsessed fan, and like she kept like, you know, being outside of his house and leaving a rose with a note. And they were. Did
it turn out to be like Jill playing a joke on him or something?
It ended up being Jill, Al, Wilson.
Everybody was in on it.
Yeah, and I think like Tim's brother might have, you know, there was a bunch of people collaborating together to help, to do it. Yeah.
Wow.
Spoilers.
Yeah. It seems like there was another one that just popped in my head. I guess a more modern example of
The Office.
Yeah, I was thinking The Office.
Yeah.
But that was more fun with like the costumes.
Yeah, The Office did that, you know, well with their Christmas episodes too.
You've watched Parks and Rec?
One time through.
Oh, no. Not Parks and Rec is what I'm thinking of, or am I? The one, no, Community.
What are you thinking about? I've seen not all of them. I've seen at least the first 2 seasons all the way through. Okay. I started to watch the third, but
I think I'm in the middle of either the second or third season. Okay. It seems like that's going to be something they end up doing too.
Yeah. A lot of themes, yeah.
Yeah. But, holiday-themed episodes are always fun. I always have more fun with, like, the Halloween things. Oh, the Brady Bunch. That was another one I was going to bring up. I don't know if it was a Halloween episode. Mm. But do you remember when Greg was living in the attic and he was shining the UFO-shaped light outside on the blanket?
No. I didn't really watch the Brady Bunch.
And, like, he was freaking Peter and Bobby out? No?
No, I mean, I always enjoyed, like, the Bugs Bunny one, like you said, where there was, like, the mad scientist and the big red monster.
I feel like there was a Garfield one, too. But I don't really remember it.
Oh, yes, there was a really weird Garfield episode. It was, like, where him and Odie are trick-or-treating. For some reason, I think it was, like, was it an island? There was a really, you know, creepy
volcano?
House. I seen that one, too, but no, that's not the one I'm talking about. They were... Maybe it's not an island. I thought there was something like to do with water, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But yeah, there was like this guy, they go in his house and he's telling them the story, but they made him look really creepy. I'll have to show you the clip afterward.
Okay.
It was weird.
All right, well, enough of that. Is there anything else you wanted to get to before we hop into our main discussion, which will be Return of the Living Dead from 1985?
There's a few trailers we could talk about if you wish. They're not Halloween themed per se, but...
No.
I mean, it's up to you. I don't care.
Nope.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get on to it. You want to pick out some trivia tidbits for us?
No.
All right, well, let's get on with the synopsis. Read the synopsis.
Lead the way. 2 bumbling employees at the medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas, which vapors cause the dead to rise again as zombies.
All right. So, yeah, this is a 1985 movie. There's a character named Ernie that is thought to be a Nazi due to him sharing his name with Ernst Kaltenbrunner. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Probably not.
He also runs around with a Luger, and he has a picture of Ava Braun in his office. Some of the zombie extras were paid bonus. Oh my gosh. Some of the zombie extras were paid bonus to eat real calf brains in the film. Dan O'Bannon, who I believe was the director, didn't want the actors to do anything that they weren't willing to do, and ate some of the raw calf brains first in front of them to show them he wouldn't ask them to do anything he wasn't willing to do himself.
Can you get sick from something like that?
I can't. It'd probably make you mad. Oh, here's an interesting one. Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who we know from Action Jackson. He was actually in part 5 of Friday the 13th. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Remember the movie Juwanna Man?
No.
He starred in that. Anyway, he was homeless when he was cast in this movie, which is kind of crazy. I think he's a pretty good actor. I always enjoy seeing him. It's surprising to see Klug Gallagher in here.
Which one was he?
He was the guy that owned the warehouse.
Okay.
I recognize him a lot from, like, older, like, I want to say, like, westerns and police-type movies.
So this is out of his norm, then?
Yeah. So it was interesting to see him. What's your familiarity with this movie?
Somehow I'd seen at least the first maybe 20 to 30 minutes of this, because as we were watching this, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. Oh yeah, this is going to be coming up at some point, and so that's about it. Not too familiar. This isn't usually my type of movie. I don't even know how I saw it. Somewhere I caught it on TV.
Is this our first official zombie movie for Monster Month?
Is it? Oh, are you asking me? I thought you were telling me. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Tremors, American Werewolf, London, Pumpkinhead, The Thing, Killer Clowns, House. Phantasm was the first one. The second run we had The Howling, Deer Woman, In the Mouth of Madness, Poltergeist. So yes. Okay.
It took us a while to get to zombies. They seem like they're more popular now than they were maybe a decade ago.
Yeah, what was that? Would you say that's like, I know they're not exactly zombies, but 28 Days Later, that kind of
that's
somewhat.
A zombie film.
Well, I mean, they're not.
It's a different take.
Undead.
Yeah.
They're diseased.
The virus.
But yeah. It's in the vein.
It's essentially rabies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that probably helped revive that. Then didn't they do a remake of Night of the Living Dead or something like that? Or
Dawn of the Dead. Whichever one was in the mall. Yeah. They did remake that. They probably did remake the other ones too. I can't remember. That got zombies popular again. So did.
Oh, is Resident Evil kind of some degree zombies? Yeah,
Resident Evil and Shaun of the Dead and The Walking Dead, like all that stuff is kind of revived zombies.
I've never watched any of The Walking Dead.
For better or worse, in my opinion, worse. But I guess we'll get to that. So the movie starts off. It says the events are true, and it has the spiel about how it's all based on a true story, which is crap.
Yeah, yeah.
But what they're doing is they're paying homage to Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
From the 60s. And I guess this story was, the original story was written by a guy who also worked on Night of the Living Dead. Well, he had a split with George A. Romero, so they kind of like parted ways, where George A. Romero could keep on making sequels to that movie, but this other guy got to use the term Night of the Living Dead, the Living Dead type of stuff.
Okay. Was it like, so it was a feud or something, or?
It is something like that. I don't know the full background on it. So this is what that is. So this movie isn't
It's kind of the first split off of it, so to speak.
This movie, it isn't technically connected, but they do mention Night of the Living Dead and treat it as though they were real events and that the movie was based off of real events, but switched around.
Frank?
Yeah, kid.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Kid, I have seen weird things come, and I have seen weird things go. But the weirdest thing I ever saw just had to cap it all.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right? Sure. What about it?
Did you know that movie was based on a true case?
That's not possible. I mean, they showed zombies taking over the world.
Well, they changed it all around. What really happened was, back in 1969 in Pittsburgh at the VA hospital, there was a chemical spill, and all that stuff kind of leaked down into the morgue, and it made all the dead bodies kind of jump around as though it was alive.
What chemical?
2,4,5-trioxin, it's called. It was to kind of spray on marijuana or something, and the Darrow Chemical Company was trying to develop it for the Army. And they told the guy who made the movie that if he told the true story, they'd just sue. He changed all the facts around.
So what really happened?
Well, they closed it all down, see? And the Army shipped all that contaminated dirt and all those dead bodies out. And they kept it a secret.
So how come you know about it?
Well, the transportation department got the orders crossed. And they shipped those bodies here instead of to the Darrow Chemical Company.
And we have that whole scene where Fred is giving, it's Frank. Frank is giving Freddy the, all that background.
Yeah.
And explaining how Night of the Living Dead was actually true. They just kind of switched some things
So
around.
it seems like the main trope that I thought of was that they got rid of the whole cutting off the head or just destroying the brain.
This
kills them. Obviously that doesn't work here.
This movie was a departure from other zombie movies because it was the first one to have fast zombies. It was the first one to really show zombies as actually having some kind of an intelligence to them and being able to speak. And this
they were luring them with traps.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the one that actually popularized the common notion that zombies eat brains and walk around saying brains.
Yeah.
So that all comes thanks to this, which is actually half comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, it's like, I actually felt like it got more serious toward the end. Like the third act, it seemed like they started to turn up the,
From what I was reading earlier, the original script was actually more serious, and it was meant to be more of a sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
But when they asked the director, he was also the writer. Is it Dan O'Bannon? Is that what it says?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan O'Bannon.
So he agreed to direct it under the terms that he could rewrite it, and he added more comedy, and I think it actually benefited a lot because a little bit of it was self-aware. There's some meta jokes in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I really enjoyed.
Like I was saying to you, it reminds me a little bit of, what did I say? Class of Nukem High or Return of Nukem High or whatever I said it was called.
Yeah, one of those trauma
Just
movies.
a little bit. Like mostly because of the punkers.
Yeah.
You know.
A lot of those trauma movies, especially in the 80s, like they showed that type of subculture.
Yeah.
Where, they made all the teenagers like wild punks with the crazy hair and
anarchy.
Outrageous attitudes. So the movie starts off with that, saying that it's based on a true story. It's not. And then we go to the warehouse.
Wait, it's really not?
Well,
this didn't happen? Are you sure about that?
Yes. Okay. So, Frank is showing Freddy around. Freddy is the young guy who just got a job at this warehouse.
With the sweet rat tail.
Yeah, is super interesting. I really like his shirt, by the way. The Japanese shirt.
Yeah,
says,
I did notice that.
Domo arigato.
It reminds me of there was a Five Iron Frenzy, which is a band. They did they used that logo to some degree.
Yeah. Everybody's seen it. It's like the setting sun or rising sun logo. Yeah. His shirt's really cool. So he's showing Freddy around, teaching him, the ropes. This warehouse is really interesting. I guess it's a scientific warehouse. I actually wrote the name of it down earlier because it's a
medical facility supplier, so to speak.
The name is on the outside, and it kind of made me laugh. You need a medical supply. Yeah. And UNEDA is UNEEDA, one word.
Right. So there were like cats and dogs cut in half.
It was mostly dead
vets,
things.
Skeletons for classrooms. Yeah. They showed like bedpans and other things like that.
Yeah, it's mostly dead things that are there for students to study, I suppose. And at the beginning, they're looking for skeletons with perfect teeth.
Yes.
And they bring up the fact that, like, who do you know that dies with perfect teeth? What adult has perfect teeth? Weird. And they said that all the skeletons come from India, and I don't know if they were just making that up or if that's based on some kind of a fact.
Yeah, I don't know.
Frank is played by James Karen, who I think does an amazing job in this movie. He was the older guy, the one that was just constantly screaming.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was squawking a lot.
Yeah. I think he just died recently, like last year.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure who Freddy is.
He's nobody.
But Freddy has a group of friends. They're all punks, and he's got a girlfriend who doesn't seem like she fits in with that crowd at all.
And then there's the new wave guy.
Yeah, and then there's a new wave guy.
The Cars tribute band.
Yeah, there's 2 girls, well, 3 girls.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 guys. 4 guys, actually.
Let's see, there was 2, like, super punkers.
Yeah, there was the main guy, the big guy that was driving.
Yeah,
with the short hair. There was the guy with the mohawk.
Okay.
There was Muniz.
Okay.
And
New
then
wave.
there was a new wave guy who looked more like George McFly to me.
Yeah, he just looked like he was being a new wave.
He looked like he didn't quite fit in. And then there were the 2 punker girls.
Yeah, and then the one girl.
And then there was Tina, Freddy's girlfriend, who looked like the girl next door. She's like wearing blue and white pants, like one of those 80s jackets. Mm-hmm. Like she looks totally just like a normal kid.
Totally. There's the key word. Totally.
Tubular. So that was kind of funny. What'd you think of that warehouse with all this stuff in it?
Seems like it'd be an interesting place to look around, but
so they start packing up that skeleton.
Wouldn't want to work there.
Then he gets into the thing about how Night of the Living Dead was a true story and that the military accidentally sent their tubes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, which right there, I was like, okay, fine, they accidentally set it there, but how is it that they're still there? Like, they still have
They never reported it missing. Well, the military knew it was missing, but they didn't know where it went to, and when they got it, they never said anything. They just put it in the basement and hid it. I don't know why they wanted to hide it.
You think there would be some paperwork shows that there was some kind of delivery done there?
You know how it is. Stuff gets shuffled around, and I've done
my fair share of...
Are you finding it hard to believe that the government misplaced something?
Yes. All right, continue.
So, he's telling them about how Night of the Living Dead was based on a true story. They have the canisters downstairs with the bodies, and he goes to show them, and I think it's kind of funny. He uses the Windex so he can clean the glass on it, but then he takes the whole roll of the
I've
towel.
seen people do stuff like that. I always thought it was weird, but I have seen people do stuff like that. Now, here's the thing. So what was it? These bodies were... Was it some kind of weapon they were testing? Was it...
I believe that was the idea.
Okay.
They were testing some kind of weapon so they could drop one of these things off somewhere and wipe out an area. But that doesn't seem like a very bright idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like a regular bomb would do the trick better. Now you're just turning living people into undead.
Well, one of the themes of the movie is that every decision that somebody makes to try and fix things ends up making everything worse. So... Well, what do you know? They accidentally crack it open. He talks about how it's sturdy and made by the U.S. government. Just taps on it. And
well, yeah, I mean, it was old, though. Like, how old did they... I mean, it's been there since, the 60s at this point?
Yeah, it's been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then, all this gas gets released. Then we get some cool effects. I think the zombie that's in there is kind of cool. They show it kind of melting away a little bit.
Yeah, that one was probably the best looking one all in all, I think, the whole movie.
And they had the gas going up into the air system. That looked cool. I imagine they did that with reverse. They pumped the gas out of the vent.
Well, yeah, they definitely did that with, not only that, but they did it with the fact that when the gas first started coming out, they showed the window with the body in there. You could see, like, the skin it came back to a point. Mm-hmm. It looked it looked
like they had wax that were melting off of it, but then it was on top of something else that was physical. So, like, when it melted away, you still had, like, the bare bones, Yeah. Which is pretty cool. So, the gas ends up making them sick. It gets released all throughout the warehouse. And since the warehouse is filled with dead things, it reanimates everything. We get to see a half dog barking, and I felt bad for the dog.
That one was pretty bad. I mean, the effect of it was...
Well, that's where, like, the dark humor starts creeping in.
The butterflies pinned on the board were flapping, yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. And then you had the other guy. I guess they had a cadaver sitting in the freezer.
There was a fresh one.
Who was very yellow.
Right, yeah, they showed him right at the beginning. That was before he even revealed about what was in the basement. They showed that guy.
They call up the warehouse owner, Bert, because... they weren't sure what to do.
Yeah, they managed to lock him in a storage, or no, it was the cooler.
He was in the freezer.
He was in the walk-in.
But they call Bert to come in. They're like, you gotta come see this and check this out. Yeah. We're in trouble. Mm-hmm. And Bert shows up, whose best friend's name is Ernie. I was reading about that, and they said that had nothing to do with Sesame Street. It was just a coincidence.
Wait, no. Was the guy across the street named Ernie?
Yeah.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And so Bert comes in to check it out. They decide they don't want to call the military, which is probably a bad call right away. Well, I don't know, because based on the end of the movie.
Yeah, but you also think if they had they call right then and there, they might have contained it while it was still
maybe
just 2 people.
So they decide they're going to take care of it themselves. They say, what happened in the movie? You hit them in the head, they die, right? The zombies.
Sever the head or destroy the head, yes.
So they let the yellow zombie out, the cadaver from the freezer, and he just comes out screaming. He jumps right on Bert. Frank is screaming. Yeah, I thought he was a
goner right there. I didn't realize he was basically a main character.
Frank is screaming his head off the whole time and freaking out, doing a great job. Finally, they pin the zombie down, and Bert takes a pickaxe and just right into the back of the skull, and it's sticking into this thing's head, and it's still flailing around. They don't know what to do, so they end up taking a saw and cutting its head off. It gets pretty gross here. It's not the worst looking thing, as far as gore and all that goes, but just the idea of it is pretty sick.
Yeah.
And the body gets up and starts flailing around.
Yeah, that would be a difficult, you think an axe would be a quick cut, but no, you're having to saw through something like that.
I'm not sure they had access to one at that point. They just grabbed whatever they had.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying it was
So the body gets up and starts running around like a headless chicken, while the head is still kind of pinned into the cement, moving around, and they don't know what to do. Bert comes up with the idea, his buddy Ernie across the street. It's some kind of
what street would that be?
moratorium.
Sesame Street? Well, I can't make jokes.
So, across the street, it's like some kind of moratorium or whatever. He's an embalmer.
Yeah.
And he also happens to have an incinerator to cremate bodies, I guess, with?
Yeah, crematorium.
Meanwhile, Freddy's friends are waiting for him to get off of work. They're upset because he got a job.
Okay.
And, so they're waiting for him to get out, so they decide to hang out at the cemetery, which is right next door. Which one of the girls is really into.
To say the least, yes.
Yeah. So they're out there partying in the graveyard, and,
banging on a trash can.
What's her name? Trash?
Drumming on a street light, yes. A voice is
So the one punk girl's name was Trash. And they're sitting out there, and she's like, do you ever fantasize about how you're gonna die? And she starts getting into it, and it's all really weird.
Yes.
Do you ever fantasize about being killed?
Never.
Do you ever wonder about all the different ways of dying? Violently? And wonder, what would be the most horrible way to die?
Try not to think about dying too much.
Well, for me, the worst way would be for a bunch of old men to get around me and start biting and eating me alive.
And then from that point until the movie is over, she's completely naked. She starts dancing on top of a gravestone. You got a funny face over there.
No, I'm just
I guess she was perfectly fine with being naked. But I was fine with that too. But the people making the movie decided she needed to wear kind of a patch over her lower bits. So they just colored it, flesh colored, and they basically referred to it as basically being like a Barbie down there. But she spends the rest of the movie naked. She becomes a zombie later. She's still like that. They put an interesting face on her when she starts attacking people.
Yeah,
It's like a mask where her mouth is a little bit wider, and she looks a little monstrous too.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of almost like in The Exorcist, the way she starts to look more monstrous. It
reminded me of, I don't know how familiar with the Evil Dead movies you are, but Evil Dead 2, there's a scene where one of the guys becomes kind of a zombie, and they give a mask to him where his mouth is just kind of open in a snarl, but there's no control over it. That's kind of what it reminded me of.
Okay. I've seen them, but it's been a long time. I've seen all 3 of those.
We'll eventually get to this.
Oh, gee.
So they're all partying in the graveyard. Well, Freddy and Frank and Bert take the chopped up zombie that they have. They decide they need to get rid of it completely. And they decided that acid won't work. They want to use this incinerator. And they're trying to talk Ernie into letting them use the incinerator.
Yeah, because now where the one that got out of the crypt or whatever you call that, where was he at? The one that actually says brains.
The one in the basement?
Yeah. Did they not realize he was there?
I think he was in one of those other canisters and ended up getting out because
when they woke up, they looked in there, the glass was broken, he was gone.
there was another one in there. So the one where they broke the glass, that was another one, and the gas escaped, and then they said the body melted when the air hit
See,
it.
I thought that's what he assumed happened. I didn't know that was...
Well, it was a
sure.
completely different one, so it was gone. And then
okay.
all the canisters had the lids closed, but later on when they come back, one was open with a handprint.
Okay, so there's only 2 down there.
I think there were 3, but only one more got out.
Okay.
So...
Would you think that would almost be a segue? Well, I guess they wouldn't need to use it as a segue. I was going to say, most movies, you would think by the end they get control again, there would be also this last one that survived. You think it would be like that guy, but the way they ended the set's not really necessary.
No, it wasn't necessary.
But yeah, if they follow that other, guideline, you would want to have one, like, kind of like in Critters or something, where one survives.
Oh, look, there's an egg. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they decided that they talked Ernie into letting them use the incinerator, but what happens is somehow, I thought the incinerator would be meant to collect the ashes maybe and put them in an urn, or maybe it's a different process.
It was like basically like the smoke or something of
there's
the
something
furnace that carries it out into the graveyard, which it starts raining and it takes it right down, and which it almost makes you think that had it not rained, maybe they might have been okay. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But it does rain, and the kids are out there partying. They're saying the rain is burning their skin. They go to get out of it. The rain starts soaking into the ground. Bodies are in the ground. The bodies come up out of the ground. And that's how we get a zombie apocalypse.
Right. So, okay. So, what was the kid's name again from the beginning? It's
Freddy.
Okay, Freddy and Bert?
Freddy, Frank, and Bert.
Okay,
the 3 that
Freddy
worked
and
at the
Frank.
warehouse.
So the fact that they were just exposed to the gas as it came out, that basically turned them into...
Yeah, and as the movie goes, they slowly deteriorate, and you can see them getting worse and worse.
You almost think like... Well, yeah, because like they're the only ones then that weren't bitten, but turned.
Right, and I wasn't sure if... Because the rules are different in this than they are in other movies. So I wasn't sure if biting would do it, because it seems like a lot of people that got bit were just dead. Mm-hmm. But they were getting their faces and brains eaten, right? But the girl...
I guess you're right.
The girl did come back as a zombie, though. But she also got rained on while she was nude.
All the other kids got rained on, too.
But she got it the worst because she was completely naked, so I wonder if that was it. And even when they were in the car...
But they were so soaked. It wouldn't seem like...
Even when they were in the car, like, the top of the car started to leak, and it all leaked right onto her. So I don't know if that was the thing. But either way, they attacked her, and they basically, the zombies got her, but when she was reanimated, she looked the same, just a zombie.
Yeah,
like
they slightly
her head
colored
wasn't
her, like,
missing or anything.
Gray or something, or like a slight off color,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It almost seems like there's not, like, they weren't thinking too much about the rules of it. I think we're putting probably a little more thought in than they did, but... So
they spend their time, this guy that owns the crematorium or whatever it is, he's the one that people think is probably a Nazi. He's got the blonde hair.
Yeah, they didn't emphasize that. Now, I mean, when you pointed it out, like, I was like, okay,
yeah. His details is very subtle.
Yeah, there was some pictures. There was the fact that he had, like, super blonde hair.
And he was kind of named after a Nazi.
Yeah, and I feel like there was one more thing. What kind of music was he would listen to at the very beginning?
He said something that we think sounded like German.
Yeah.
But we couldn't understand exactly
Was
what
he listening to,
saying.
like, was it like German opera or something with his headphones?
Yeah, he had his headphones on when they first showed up.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was listening to, though.
Okay.
And then we get down to the scene in the cellar, basically, where you were talking about earlier, where that other zombie comes up, and they call that zombie Tar Man, because he looks like he's covered in tar, kind of.
The production people? Because I didn't hear anyone call him.
It's just the nickname people gave him, fans. Okay. That's like the coolest movie zombie I've ever seen, I think. That one. The guy that was in the costume and puppeteering it, I believe he actually works, like, for Jim Henson, or he did work for Jim Henson as a puppeteer, so he had experience already with that kind of thing, and he did an amazing job.
So wait, was it a guy in a costume? Or was it some kind of puppet?
It was a guy in a costume, but he was also covered with animatronics and makeup.
Okay, so one guy was doing the main actions, the other guy's puppeteer. Okay, gotcha.
And I pointed this out earlier, we went back and looked at the trailer, because I had read this, where in this version that I have, for whatever reason, they decided to make the zombie's voice a little deeper. Mm-hmm. And when we went back and watched the trailer, it was more high-pitched. It almost sounded like the same voice, just they slowed it down a little.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Probably, I mean, maybe it just sounds a little more fearsome or intimidating.
One of the things that really set this movie apart from other zombie movies back in the day is when we see Tarman, we get to see, like, basically how smart they are now. He figures out where she's at. She tries to hide from him inside of a locker.
Yeah, he's, using a pulley system.
He wraps a chain around the door and he sets up a pulley.
Yeah, that was the first thing. I mean, he was talking.
Yeah.
He, uses that. And then, a lot of them are setting traps, using the radio.
Yeah.
Send more police, send the ambulance.
That part's great, too. I love when they get on the radio and they're like, send more cops.
One of them, which was a cop, was using his,
Oh, yeah, he took the cop's outfit and dressed up as the cop and
like
was
a
waving
marshalling
people
stick,
in.
yeah.
Yeah. That's something they kind of continue in the second one. The second one is pretty good, too.
Okay.
And also, the actors that play Freddy and Frank, they return in the second one.
Oh.
I think that the second one is like an independent, like it's like they're completely unrelated stories. It's like, okay, we're going to redo it. So it's almost a reboot in a way. And they're similar characters, but they're not the same. They're actually grave robbers. And there's one point in
Same two guys?
It's the same two actors and they're robbing a grave. And after the zombies start coming out, they actually kind of look at each other and they're like, this seems familiar somehow.
Okay. So a little, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's great. The first two movies are really good. And then they start to go.
How many movies are there?
I believe there's 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. What was so bad about the other ones?
Just not as good. They didn't capture really the spirit of the first two. So
really you say the first two, that's it?
Yeah. And I remember there's a scene that always cracked me up. I saw it on TV from the second one where the zombie kind of tries to do like a radio trap like they did in this one where they're not sure who they're talking to. They're like radioing the police station.
Okay.
And they start to feel like, well, maybe the person on the other end of the radio isn't quite human. So they ask him who the president is. He's like, Herbert Hoover, or somebody from the past, back in the day. So they figured out that it's a zombie at the police station. They don't go there. I love the Tarman zombie. I think the makeup and special effects on that were amazing.
Yeah.
I also like how all the little things that they kind of set up throughout the movie kind of got paid off. Like, at the very beginning, they talk about how that third step, of course, it's a trope in a horror movie. One of the steps is going to break when somebody stands on it.
Okay.
But they say, watch out for the third step, and then they mention it again, and then it creaks when Tina's going down the stairs, and then when she needs to escape, bam, it breaks.
Okay.
They talk about the rigor mortis and how that works.
Right.
How they, you get all stiff at first, but you can work it out, and eventually it'll go away, and that explains why some of the zombies are able to move a lot faster than the others.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's interesting.
So this was pretty popular when it came out and made a decent amount of money. I believe the budget was around $4 million and they made $14 million or so at the theater. Horror movies, they tend to make back their budget plus some.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the horror comedy genre when it's done right, and I feel like this is one of the ones that's done right.
Okay. What's some other ones?
Evil Dead 2 and 3. The Critters movies are a little bit horror comedy.
Yeah.
Gremlins.
Definitely 2, at least, I would say, is more than 1, right?
Mm-hmm. House was another one that we watched for Monster Month.
Yes.
And that one's a horror comedy. That one leans a little more towards a horror. They have various degrees.
Yeah.
A more modern one that I like that's a horror comedy would be like Cabin in the Woods, which we'll get to at some point.
Yeah.
But, what did you think of the comedy? Did it work for you? You laughed a few times.
I think I was more laughing at, like, goofy, I don't know if it was stuff that was even meant to be funny. It was just stuff I kind of slightly found funny.
Like what?
I'm trying to remember. Dang it.
I know I laughed when, the lead punk guy pulled that curtain aside and right there was the tar man and he goes brains and then just chomps his head. So this is the first time you've seen it all the way through.
All the way through.
Zombie movies aren't usually my bag. I think they're cool monsters, but once they start to get more popular, they just seem so overdone now. At this point.
Then you had to do the rebellious punk thing and say,
no, it's not so much that. It's just
teasing.
It's just they were nowhere, now they're everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
I think the last big monster movie or zombie movie before they kind of died off for a while was there was a remake of Night of the Living Dead with starring they had a woman as the main character with short hair. I don't know if you are familiar with it at all.
Okay, is that the one where she escapes on a boat at the end?
I can't remember that name exactly.
All right. Okay.
But
it's not the one at the mall,
but
right?
it's from the early 90s.
Oh, then no, that's not it.
And then for a while, maybe 10 or so years, there were no zombies anywhere, but now they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Shows like The Walking Dead.
Is that any good?
Have you never watched it?
Never.
I watched the first season and thought, it's not too bad. Second season started to lose me, and then after that, it was just the same old thing over and over again.
How many seasons are there?
I don't know. Too many.
That's probably not a show I would want to watch.
It's the same thing over and over and over again. And the writing, and they do things, they write the script in a way to where they can shock the audience. But, like, they'll take characters that should have experience or have done things smart in the past. Yeah. And then just all of a sudden be completely out of character and be stupid just so they can die.
Like, what do you mean?
You can have a shocking death.
Yeah, what's a shock death? Like,
all right,
or what's something shocking?
This is spoilers, right?
I don't
so there's a character, this is where I was like, I'm done with the show. So there's a character named Beth.
Okay.
There's a girl, young girl. She's been there since the beginning. So this is maybe season 4 or 5 where this happens. Another group of people that are surviving have captured somebody that she was going after. I can't remember exactly. It gets to the point where they go to rescue this person. So now you have Group A and Group B. Group A is the main cast that you've been following. Group B is these other people that are like held up in a hospital, right? And then there's Beth in the middle of them. And she decides she's not going to take it anymore. And she does something stupid and tries to stab the leader of Group B.
Okay. Why would
right in front of everybody while they're looking at each other pointed with guns. And this whole time, everything's been about survival, and she's doing this for a character that she's barely known, right?
Okay.
That's what it was. She got captured by them, and they came to rescue her, but she kind of became friends with somebody in Group B. So then they had her die right there, just so they could kill her off and be shocking. I can't believe they killed Beth. And it's like, you know what? The writing is, they're doing uncharacteristically stupid things just so they can be shocking.
Gotcha.
And I'm done with it at this point. I was already bored with it because it was the same thing over and over again. Group gets together, they decide to survive together, their place gets invaded by zombies, they move on. They find a new place, oh look, here's another group of people, the other group of people turn out to be bad, they fight, here come more zombies, people die, find a new spot. It's just same thing over and over and over again, and I don't know why the show got so popular.
Isn't there also like a spin-off?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Fear the Walking Dead?
Yeah, no, is that like a prequel or?
I don't know. Okay. I think it might be following a separate group of people.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I imagine that if that's the case, then they'll probably have them merge together whenever they decide to end it, which may be soon.
Yeah. Okay. Back on topic.
Anyway, yeah, so zombies for you, like, were you into them? What do you think of the zombie monster?
No. I've always liked werewolves most. Mm-hmm. I think the Frankenstein thing is kind of cool too. Maybe not as much as werewolves, but like I usually like.
Well, he's kind of a zombie.
I guess. I don't know. I never thought of him as such, but maybe.
One of the ones for me that I really enjoy and I consider it a zombie are the Friday the 13th movies.
Okay.
Because Jason's kind of a zombie.
Yeah, I guess too.
We'll go through those at some point too, I'm sure. But yeah, I just like him being this unstoppable brute.
Right.
But zombies have always been kind of interesting, and back before they were overdone, like I kind of wanted to see more of them, but now that there's so much of it, This one kind of really, I think, was way ahead of its time, because it wasn't really until like Shaun of the Dead or so when, they had, have you seen Shaun of the Dead?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a horror comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
Involving the zombies, and I think they probably borrowed some stuff from this movie.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's been a while since I've seen that one too, but it was okay.
Mm-hmm. So how did you feel about this one?
I don't know. It's like I said, it's not really my cup of tea per se. It was fine to kill an hour and a half with you or whatever to watch it.
Well, let's get to the ending because we didn't get there yet.
Okay, fine.
So, eventually they decide, it's hopeless.
Yeah.
The two characters, Fred and Freddy.
Right. At the beginning, they say that basically they did not want to call the military to report that they had their missing canisters or
right.
Or
and then
crypts.
they end up doing it. But in the meantime, Frank and Freddy both end up turning into zombies, kind of. What I think was kind of an interesting twist a little bit is you kind of expected Freddy, the boyfriend, to be the more caring one of the two. Mm-hmm. But he ends up becoming kind of a monster and going after his girlfriend. He wants her brains. Yeah. To the point where they blind him and he's still following around because he can smell her delicious brains.
Yeah.
And Frank is the one who actually, he decides, screw it, and he runs to the crematorium.
Right.
Takes off his wedding ring and hangs it up and then says, God forgive me, and hops into the incinerator in kind of a heroic move.
Sure.
And he's the one that's been the most cowardly the whole time.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's kind of a sweet moment for that character.
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of wanted to mention was the half-bodied zombie, the woman that they brought in from the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She killed the guy with the mohawk. They actually were able to capture her and ask her,
Yeah, like, what do you want, and, why, and whatever.
Why do you need to eat people? Not people, brains. Why do you eat brains?
It eases their pain, or whatever.
Yeah, it eases the pain of death, is what she says. Which is kind of interesting. And I think that zombie, obviously it was mechanical, but you can see, like, the spine, the broken spine kind of, like, wiggling around almost like a tail.
Right.
And at the very end of it, there's clear liquid coming out. I guess it's a spinal fluid.
Okay, I didn't notice the liquid, but...
Yeah, it's a nice little detail.
I thought it was funny he was getting really close to her to talk to her.
Well, they had her tied down pretty good, and she was only half a body.
I know, I just was afraid, like, her as much as she could was going to lunge forward and get him. Because it seemed like, he was talking pretty loud. It didn't seem like he needed to do that. I could understand more if they were making it where she was speaking low and he had to do that to hear her. But I thought that was going to be a moment where they were going to have her go, and get him, but they never did.
The police, they found out that the police have set a barricade around the area and they were investigating. They were finally able to call and get a hold because they went down to the basement and found a phone down there. They were able to call and get a hold of the police just in time to hear the police get overrun by zombies.
Right.
So now it's way too late. That's when they finally give in and they call the number on the canister to tell the military. Well, we had been introduced to this general before who was basically in charge of this stuff, and he was in hot water and he had to be reachable 24/7 in case anybody ever found the canister. That's how important it was.
Right.
And it was he was kind of a jerk. You laughed at that when he was talking about his favorite food.
He comes in, what's for dinner? Lamb chops. I had lamb chops for lunch.
Yeah.
Just...
How was your day? Crappy as usual.
yeah. Everything was just, Debbie Downer.
They call him, they get a hold of that general, and he's so nonchalant about the whole thing. So how big would you say this cemetery is? And blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's like almost, I guess he almost expected it, which I was like, had they had this problem before where they literally had bodies coming back to life and killing people? Or was it, was he just thinking of it as it's a dangerous
chemical? Well, if the events
chemical?
of Night of the Living Dead were based on truth,
I guess that's, okay.
He was experienced in this.
Okay.
So finally, they decide to call the military to get help. Military sends help in the form of an atom bomb.
That'll help.
Which,
That'll do the trick, I guess.
It's a pretty drastic measure to take, but I guess if you're just trying to stop it. But the thing is, this is Louisville, by the way. Louisville, Kentucky, a major city. And they just nuked, I think they said it only took out like 20-something square blocks, which seems awfully small to me.
They didn't have the stereotypical like mushroom cloud looking. That's why I was like, I even said to you, was that a nuke?
It was a little model of what was supposed to be Louisville. And
yeah. Well, I'm sure there's various degrees of weapons like that, some
it might not have been necessarily
smaller.
An atomic bomb or nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
It was something that was big enough to destroy a large area. And you're like, okay, it's all taken care of. And as they're saying that, you're seeing like all the remains from the bomb float up into the air, and then it starts to rain again. They said, don't worry about the fires, the rain will put it out. And they start playing that sweet theme song that they have. I loved that theme song.
I noticed.
And, they're basically letting you know, okay, it's all starting over again. Everything that anybody does just makes everything worse.
Right.
So now it's going to be a bigger area that's infected.
Yeah, that's when the nuclear bomb gets pulled out.
So I love this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. Obviously, I bought it. It's on Blu-ray over here. The first time I ever saw it was actually with John. We went to the video store next to his house, and we rented it and we watched it, I believe, on VHS.
What did he think of it?
Oh, he loved it, too.
Okay.
We were both laughing at it, and it was a lot of fun. Plus, naked girl throughout half the movie to two teenagers is just great anyway. But other than that, like, the movie's well done. I think the comedy for me works pretty well. The special effects are really good. It's a nice blend of the horror comedy. It was well written, I believe. Okay. And the actors like really tried. Like, you can tell everybody was into what they were doing, I believe.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I mean, this is not my genre, so again, to me, it was like I could, if I never saw this again, that'd be fine. I've seen worse movies by far, but I definitely didn't love it or even really like it. Just there it is.
It's a movie.
I can check it off on my list if I had to.
The 80s for me is like the best decade for movies.
Absolutely, I agree. But this type is usually not my cup of tea.
I'd say this is pretty close to my cup of tea.
Yes, I know. So, I assume that's an A+ for you.
I'll give it a solid A.
Okay, very well. I think I'm gonna have to go F. I don't know.
F?
Yeah, it didn't.
So you hated the movie? You just said you didn't.
Fine, F plus. I don't know. It just doesn't. It's like
if you're in the middle,
I didn't
more like
hate
a C?
it. I didn't hate it. I just didn't. It's like I don't know. Like,
well, what did you like about the movie? Just let's go through a little list here. First,
like I said, there was a very, very few things that I slightly laughed at, but again, I don't even know if they were supposed to be funny. I think it was just a few things that I found funny myself, but I don't think it was meant to be.
Did you enjoy the special effects? You didn't think the Tar Man was cool?
I guess. I don't know. It's not my cup of tea.
The music of the movie. Now you pointed out the music.
No.
You were saying you didn't think it fit, but I thought it did, like, in the ironic way.
The first zombie comes up and it's time to party or whatever. I'm thinking like, no, like it's not time to party. It's time to run for your life. Like, I don't know. Like, I just thought it was a weird choice.
That's the fun
party. You know, I don't know. That was weird to me when she was dancing around. That would have been when you throw on "It's Time to Party" music. You know, where she's going nuts in the cemetery dancing, but I don't know. That's it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it, but like, I didn't even like it enough to give it a D. No, I'm going to stand by my F. I'll give it F plus at best if that makes you feel better. But, no, not really. Just, sorry.
Wow, okay.
No offense.
Well, if anybody out there ever wants to give us some feedback, let us know. What do you think of this movie? What memories do you have of it? Is it an A or an F?
Or somewhere in between. Oh, you think we planned that? We didn't. But that was good.
All right. Well, Monster Month is just kicking off. We've got more to do. We'll see how it goes. Maybe a bonus episode.
Maybe less. Maybe this is the one and only.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll be tuning out.
Yep, check us out on Facebook and iTunes.
Stay tuned for more Monster Month.